So if you're just starting your small skincare, cosmetics or soap business journey, or wanting to, this series is for you. Today's video is about formulating the product. So spoiler alert, I've spent the last year and a half working on these formulas, so I'm pretty sorted on that front, but I'm going to show you the process. So the first products I'll be launching will be cold process soap bars. This is the first thing you need to decide. Don't try and do everything at once. Start with one item and then increase your range gradually. Once you've decided on the product you want to make, you need to create your formula. This takes time, so don't rush it. Like I said, these formulas I'm making now have been made, changed and tested over the last year and a half, and this is so that I'm completely happy with them. If you don't want to be formulating your own products, you can of course buy in white label, or you can opt for a company such as Soap Rochford, who offer pre-written formulas with CPSRs. I'll have more on that on a video later. These allow you to use a pre-made base and customise with fragrance and colours to make your own. I've got a link to them below. This video isn't sponsored by them, I just recommend. If you're formulating your own, however, make sure you first understand your ingredients, how they work together and how they properly formulate when you use them as the manufacturers intend, and how to do that safely. Read all the supplier and manufacturer information and download all of the data sheets, such as the MSDS, sometimes called the SDS, which is your safety data sheet, the COA, which is the certificate of analysis for the batch you've purchased. Download a new one each time you purchase a new batch. The IFRA document, which is the International Fragrance Association guidelines, and this will give you the maximum allowed amount for fragrances on products. Also, the allergen documentation is very important. If the company you purchase from offers any other documents, download those too. Now, I'm making cold process soap, so I also need to remember that no matter what the IFRA guidance says, I cannot go above 3% fragrance for my soap. This is a rule in the UK. It's an annoying one as it limits fragrance choices, since many just don't come through at that level because they don't survive saponification, but it's a rule nonetheless, so I need to follow it. For me, given I'm making cold process soap, I need to calculate my formulation so that I have the correct amount of oils, lye, fragrance and so forth. So to do this I use Soap Calc, and I'll show you how to use that now. Okay, so this is Soap Calc, and in order to calculate your recipe you need to fill in these boxes down here. So one of them will be the type of lye you're using. Now if you're making a bar soap you'd use sodium hydroxide. If you're making a liquid soap you'd opt for that one there. So we're making a bar soap, so we go for the top one, and then I'm working grams. And then I need the weight of my oils. This is generally, you work out the amount of the oils that will fit in the mould size that you've got, less 70, and work out 70% of that. So I'm just going to put random numbers in here for now, so we'll just leave that at 500 grams, say that's 500. Then you've got your water as a percent of oils, your lye concentration, water lye ratio, or whatever. I'm just going to make that 35. Super fat I'm going to keep as 5. Fragrance oil I tend to leave blank because I calculate that myself afterwards. And then here you've got all your different butters and oils, so you can just pick any that you're using. So let's say we're using coconut oil. Just double click and it pops it in here. And we'll say we're using some olive oil and maybe some shea butter. And let's just make it simple and say that we're using basically divided by 3. Calculate recipe, make sure it totals to 100, and then go to view and print recipe. And what it does is it gives you this sheet. You can fill out your soap name up the top there. It gives you all of this information here, and then it tells you the exact amount of grams you need for your water and your lye, so that your soap will saponify and become soap. And then down here you've got your ranges, and you want these numbers to fall somewhere in these ranges. And as you can see, for the soap we've just created, they fall all nicely in the middle there, so we can be happy that that will be a nice bar of soap. And then what I do is I use the notes section just to write any extra information, like if I'm adding 3% fragrance oil, then I'll work out 3% of my total oils, total lye, and 10% of the water, and then that'll be my 3% fragrance oil, and I'll put that here. If I'm adding sugar, if I'm adding citric acid, etc., that all goes in here, so you can type literally anything, and then you can print recipe or save it as a PDF or whatever, and then that is your recipe. If you don't like it, then just click out of it, go back, adjust, add something else, adjust the numbers, and then calculate recipe again, view print recipe, and then you can look at these numbers again and see how that falls, and just keep adjusting it until these numbers are kind of where you want them. And that's basically how you use Soap Calc. For those of you making other types of products, you would create a method of manufacture sheet and include your formulation in percentages, and then I like to include a recipe in grams for my usual batch size, then the method to make it. It's important that for any formulation you assign a product code. This can be anything you like, but it is assigned to that specific formulation. It's an identifier and it will not change unless your formulation changes. A formulation may change because of an ingredient becoming unavailable at the supplier and needs replacing, or there's a regulation change, a usage rate meaning reformulation, or you can just feel that you want to improve your formula yourself. This is different from a batch code, which is assigned to each batch. Your method of manufacture sheet will eventually go in your product information file, the PIF, and should be explained clearly enough that anyone that was picking that up could easily make your product accurately and to the same standard as you. Part of figuring out your formulation is gathering your ingredients. You'll find most labs providing CPSRs, cosmetic safety reports, will allow you to buy certain ingredients from anywhere so long as you have an MSDS, etc. in your PIF. Things like olive oil, shea butter, etc. staple ingredients that don't tend to vary much between suppliers. However, fragrance oils and specific ingredient blends must always be sourced from the same place. The composition of a fragrance oil varies across suppliers even if it has the same name. This is because how they arrive at the scent when they manufacture it may be different. So choose wisely and make sure you're happy with the company and that they're reliable. If the scent gets discontinued, and you have to accept that this does happen sometimes, then you'll need to reformulate, apply a new product code, get a new CPSR unless the lab allows an addendum, and update all of your paperwork. Some great places to buy from include the ones shown here. Once you receive your ingredient order, keep the receipt and label the products you order with a waterproof label. I like using a ticker tape label maker as it doesn't rub off or smudge. You should be labelling with the use by date and the batch number. They will sometimes be labelled with these already, but labels can smudge and become unreadable over time, which is why I like the ticker tape so much. Also, you'll often find companies don't put use by dates and simply say that it'll last 12 months from the purchase or similar, in which case I date it 12 months from my purchase date so that I know when to use it by. This is just creating your product formulation at the moment, so a simple Excel spreadsheet will suffice. But if you do start this as a business, I highly recommend software like CraftyBase or Inventora. You will need to keep inventory of your ingredients and finished products. These software companies do this for you by allowing you to input your purchases, thus recording your materials and your costs per gram. Then when you make a batch, it can calculate the cost to make that batch and each individual product and reduce your ingredient and inventory value. They also connect to your storefront to reduce products and associated costs when you sell items. It makes year-end accounting much easier and much more accurate and helps massively when calculating profit margins. So I'll take a deeper look into that in a later video. So for now we have our ingredients and we've labelled them with the batch number and the use by date. We've downloaded all of the supplier information sheets. We've read up on how to use the ingredients. We've created our formula. Now we make it. You may need to do the formulating and making parts a few times until you're happy. Failing is a good thing. It really helps with the whole process. Once you're happy with the product, we move on to stability. We'll get onto that in the next video. If you'd like a downloadable copy of the script from this video, then that's available on my Patreon, which is linked below. Thanks to everyone that's watching this series, and thank you to my patrons, including my special shout out to my VIP patrons listed here. We'll carry on with this series in the next video, so I'll see you in the next one.